Good evening and welcome to the first school board meeting of the new year. Our mission statement is, by providing outstanding education, the Lake Mills Area School District inspires our students to be responsible citizens with integrity and lifelong learners in an ever-changing world. Could we stand and do the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll call the meeting to order. Could we have roll call, please?
Dawn Delaney.
Here.
Bob Imperial.
Here.
Donna Thomas.
Here.
Steve Topol. Richard Mason.
Here.
Eli Primer.
Here.
The verification of meeting notice.
Yes, it was in the paper and on the website.
All right. Agenda revisions.
You have an updated set of minutes. There were some things that were missing from the ones you got. So in front of you, I have an updated set. And then in the board reports under policies, I would ask that we table E, use of school facilities and grounds, until the committee gets to work on finish that.
Okay. Yeah, we're moving the action items.
Yeah, let's go ahead. You know which one you want to do. so.
We want to move action item number R, the last one, or second to last one, to the beginning, because we have some visitors here. Have that? Okay, I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda with revisions.
I move approval of the agenda as amended.
Second.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Community input.
We have three people. Mr. Klotz, I think, told me first.
Mr. Klotz and Company.
I think there's enough there.
Hello, members of the board, administration, and the citizens of Lake Mills watching at home. The Lake Mills Education Association and Lake Mills Education Support Professional Association want to make you aware of the threat to public education that is Assembly Bill 1. Using the newly developed school report card system, the control of public schools that are labeled with a grade of D or F for 3 years will be taken away from their democratically elected school board and handed over to private entities with less oversight and no accountability to the families they would serve. Decisions regarding staffing, budget, programmings, athletics, extracurriculars, and pupil expulsion will not be in the hands of school boards for these schools if this bill is passed. Furthermore, it would allow voucher schools to choose to take different, potentially easier standardized tests to determine their success or failure under the school report card system. Unfortunately, as a 20-year track record in the city of Milwaukee can attest to, private companies who wish to profit from our students have not served them better than the public schools, despite being able to turn away students that they deem undesirable. Many profiteers close their doors after a few years of underserving children, sending them right back to their public schools after absconding with funds that could have made their public schools stronger. The Lake Mills Area School District is exceeding expectations and is not in danger of being labeled a failure now, but what is to keep those in power from raising the bar and continuing to defund public education until our students are also labeled failures. The LMEA welcomes the challenge of accountability and will continue to serve our students with compassion and professionalism. But accountability has to be fair for all Wisconsin schools that receive taxpayer funding, and we should be supporting our schools to help them improving rather than destroying them under the guise of accountability, but with the real aim of privatization. LMEA and LMESPA members are writing our legislators to oppose AB 1, and we urge the board, administration, parents, and anyone in favor of local control and public accountability in education to follow suit. There is also a public hearing on AB 1 this Wednesday at 10 o'clock at the state capitol, and it is no coincidence that it occurs during school hours. Since we will be in our classes teaching, we urge anyone at home who is able to attend. We are also asking this board, will you please be a voice for our students and for the values of public education in Wisconsin and testify on Wednesday?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
The only thing I would add to that, Brad, is the list for Wednesday, it's already done. Because I tried to add my name today.
Thank you for
Already-
trying. Appreciate
Already
that.
filled, so. And it's done by all the lobbies, so it's not done by the legislature, but people have already stepped up, and they only take so many people, and their list is full.
Okay, next.
Lisa, I think you were next, please.
This would you give us your name and address, please, for the record?
Lisa Topol. My address is W5993 County Road T. I'm in the township of Watertown. I'm here for 3 reasons. First of all, in November, I was here asking why there's been such a big turnover of teachers at just the elementary school. I asked about exit interviews and if they have been done yet, or when they will all be done. In December, I was unable to come to the meeting due to family health reasons, but I did watch it on TV once it was aired. I was very glad to see that exit interviews were on the agenda for it to be talked about. But then again, I was also very disappointed to see that part of the agenda was closed for the public to see or to hear. So I am here again tonight asking why. Was there something to hide? What part of that did you not want the public to hear? Is there something still you are hiding from us? Remember, these are our kids going to this school, as many parents have been asking for a very long time, as I am up here again asking again tonight. I know it's on the agenda tonight, and I will be looking forward to hearing what's on the report. I hope that you all as a board will make the necessary changes within the school district to see these issues are being dealt with. I also hope that you all make the exit interviews available for the public, us parents, to see. Second is, what is the status of hiring or temporarily filling the full-time position of speech and language teacher? There has been an open position on the WECAN since November 6th, which is now 10 weeks. We all know these IEPs are not being met. Have you looked into hiring from a staffing agency? If you have not looked into hiring from a staffing agency yet, I think it's about time. There are hundreds of them you can contact. Question, is the district too lazy to go that route? Are our children not worth the effort for the district to pay a little extra money to go to a staffing agency? Third is the school calendar. Why is Lake Mills the last school in our district, the last school district in our area to close for this school year? We get out on Friday, June 12th, if we don't have to make up any snow days. Most of the schools in our county get done on the Thursday or the Friday the week before. It would be nice when planning out the school calendar that our school matches a little more closely to the other schools in our area and our county. In Lake Mills, a child that is in 4-H, and if they want to attend the summer camp, they're not going to be in school on June 12th, or possibly June 14th, if there's a snow day that has to be made up. My kids won't be there. Why do we have 2 full weeks off for Christmas and New Year's? Why do we have no school on parent-teacher conference days? Why can't parent-teacher conference days be 2 nights during the week like most schools in our area? I think some better planning can be done with the help of teachers and parents to get a better idea for a school calendar that makes sense for a lot. Schools that are being closed, that their last day on June 4th, Thursday, June 4th, is Deerfield is their last day, Waterloo is their last day. On Friday, June 5th, Fort Atkinson last day, Jefferson last day, Johnson Creek last day. 1 whole week later is Lake Mills last day, if we don't have any snow days to make up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next,
Melissa, where's the only other one
Melissa?
that signed up?
Hi, Melissa Fearman, 230 Stonefield Drive, Lake Mills, Wisconsin. I'm just going to do a quick PTO update for you guys. Our movie night is Friday, 16th. At 6 p.m., we worked with Mrs. Dahl in the Lake Mills Elementary School. The school purchased the license for us. Mrs. Dahl handled all of that, and the PTO handled the advertising and flyers. This is our first one since my kids have been in school, but they had done them in the past. We have STEM night coming up February 6th. That's science, technology, engineering, and math. We partner with Rockford Discovery Center. There'll be 3 assemblies at the school during the day, and there's also an evening program for families to come. This is a free event for all of our students, sponsored by the PTO. And now to my questions that I have personally, I guess, not PTO related. Mr. Sanders, you mentioned there's correction to the board minutes. I'm hoping that some of that's under the community input.
It's all under the community.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure that on the record that it's corrected. And then again, exit interviews. I know we're going to learn about them some today. I hope that it answers some of the questions we've all been asking, like who's been offered them, how many people have been offered them, what your response rate is for them, and what your findings are. It would help a lot of the parents feel a lot better if things were a lot more open from the school board to the parents. We all have questions. We don't know why it took so long for exit interviews to happen when we've had such turnover for the last 2 years. So I hope that the question, I see it on the agenda. I hope that those questions are answered tonight. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Minutes of December 8th and regular and executive session meeting.
I'd move to approve the minutes of the December 8th, 2014 regular and executive session meetings.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Vouchers and invoices and treasurer's report.
I'll move to approve the vouchers and invoices in the amount of $1,035,961.21 for the month of December, and the treasurer's report for December 2014.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the vouchers, invoices, and the treasurer's report. Could we have roll call, please?
Dawn Delaney,
Aye.
Bob Imperio,
Aye.
Donna Thomas.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. Administrative reports, Mrs. Strike.
Good evening. Last month, I gave each of you an electronic copy of the course handbook, and then I also sent just the changes to you, so you should have those. But at your place tonight, I put 2 new flow charts that are in addition to the book that we did not have ready last month, but they're now integrated into the next one. So if you want to take a look at that, if you have any questions, we can talk about that now or when you get to that on the agenda. Then second of all, we have the results from the 9th grade Aspire test. That was the test that was given for the first time this fall. And our plan is that on Friday, I'm going to have a assembly with all freshmen. I'm going to give them copies of their test results and go through and walk through and explain the results. It's a really nice report. Each student will get a 4-page report talking about their strengths, their weaknesses. I think it's very, very well done. And then I will send those out hopefully Thursday so that kids can go home and there'll be a copy at their house so they can talk through their results with their parents. So that's kind of the plan to share those results. And now it's time to plan to give it again. And that will happen coming up this spring. And so our leadership team coming up, we're going to be talking about how we're going to handle the ACT testing for all juniors, the work keys testing for all juniors, and then the Aspire for 9th and 10th grade. Of course, they don't fall on the same days, so there's going to be some scheduling considerations. And so we hope to have that taken care of at leadership team this week, and then have the whole staff approve that next week, and I'll have that information for you at the next meeting. And I believe that's all I have for you tonight. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Sivrud.
Good evening. So after about 2 months, a little bit more than that, of not being able to find a speech pathologist, both by posting it and by having about 3 or 4 different agencies looking for speech pathologists to work, I have contacted Presence Learning, and you have a flyer on in your spot that says Presence Learning on it. And what they are is a leader in the practice of online speech and language therapy. They hire speech and language therapists around the United States who are qualified and licensed to provide therapy. Basically, I think they work mostly out of their home, but they do this therapy through the computer. They're able to do it online. You can see a picture in the upper corner of a student using the computer, and you can kind of see on that picture what they do is the speech therapist is in one window, and then interactive games and activities are in the other window for students to be able to do as they're working with a therapist. The camera on the computer projects back to the speech therapist, so the speech therapist can see what the student is doing at the same time. So we're looking at contracting with them so that we can provide our speech therapy students a qualified speech and language pathologist for the remainder of this year. In order to do this, we're going to have to hire a full-time assistant to make sure that the students are safe and that the computer and technology is working appropriately. This person will need to conduct the schedule like the speech therapist would do, get the students from the classroom, bring them to the spot where we're doing this, and then stay with the students while they're doing the therapy so that we know what's going on in that speech and language session. The hope, this should be started by the first week of the next semester so that they're able to get going right away on their goals. The speech and language therapist that's on the computer will be doing all of the IEPs, will both be delivering services according to the IEP and conducting the IEP meetings with appropriate personnel from our school, and we'll be doing any evaluations that we need done through that time. They will also be conducting the compensatory services that all kids are due because we have not provided speech and language therapy for the last 10 weeks, so that students can still make progress towards their IEP goals. A letter to parents will be going out early next week explaining what this is and how this is going to work. We will be monitoring this closely to make sure it works for all students. If it is not working, we will work and adjust the caseloads so that students can be assigned to a therapist within our school district. In case there are occasional situations, that was one of my big questions is, does this work for all students? And they said we have had a 99% success rate for all students. So for those occasional situations where it doesn't work, sometimes students do not like wearing the headphones with the microphone if they're very particular about those types of things. So we'll work at readjusting schedules for the other two speech and language pathologists that we have in the district. Any questions?
I do. Are these mostly activities, are these vocabulary orientated, or are they ARTIC?
It depends on what the students' goals
So
are.
we'll actually do ARTIC in a telepresence course?
Mhm.
Wow.
Jamie, is this a temporary situation until we hire a full-time human person?
Yes.
So the hiring, or at least you're in the process still of trying to identify?
We will keep it posted until we can find someone. Speech and language is an area of shortage in the state. So we know this, so we're hoping that we can find somebody who just graduated or someone who wants a change of employment at the end of the year to hire for next year.
So this would be a contract just through the remainder?
Through the remainder of this year, yes.
Are these services offered during the summer?
I believe yes.
What about semester, graduates in semester?
There isn't any that have applied. We
There's
kept
no-
it wide open.
Have we checked
Yes,
all those?
yes. It's a very low percentage of people graduating at semester out of this.
Right. I
Program.
understand, but there are some that do.
Yeah,
Yep.
there are.
Yep.
That's right.
I've interviewed a couple different candidates who took other jobs closer to their house. So I've get my hopes up,
Yeah,
and then I'm
yeah.
really disappointed the next day.
No. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
If you think of anything, let me know. All right,
Thank
thank you.
Mrs. Thompson?
Good evening.
Recap from December, as I reported it, we were focused on cooperation in December. So with the leadership of Mrs. Russo and our Spirit Squad, we were able to conduct a toy drive and deliver a truckload of toys to Christmas neighbors in Jefferson. Ms. Kempfer and Mrs. Winslow, a parent volunteer, also coordinated a winter clothing drive, which was very successful, and we now have clothing on hand, snow pants, coats, boots, mittens, and hats for kids who are in need of those things during the school day. We also had our all-school winter concert, which was led by Mrs. Sparks, our first big concert at our new school, and it was a success for our students. They were very proud to showcase their singing talents for all of their parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles who attended the concert. And then as we came back from winter break, we had our PBIS kickoff, and so that first day back, we were able to see all of the students and give some reminders about playground behavior and cafeteria behavior, and just reviewing some of those things that we forget after our winter break and coming back. And then for the month of January, we will be focused on assertion, and we covered that at our Friday assembly this past Friday, our Good Character Assembly. So we'll be looking for all of our students to be using their kind and respectful words to be able to help in situations with friends or other school situations that come up. Any questions? Thank you.
The concert, by the way, was excellent. Thank you. It was one of the few elementary concerts that you could find a place to sit. We had adequate room for the first time.
Yay.
So, Ms. Nicholson.
Good evening. Just a couple of updates since we last met. We had our 6th graders travel to Milwaukee to see the Nutcracker. That went very well. And we had our 7th graders go to Madison to see the Christmas Carol. We are already gearing up for next year. We are looking at, actually, even this year, redoing some of our parent-teacher conference schedule. So I will get that to you once we have a discussion coming up at the end of January. And then we're already beginning our scheduling conversation for next year as we're going through what Amanda did a couple of years ago with 4 sections, 5 sections, 4 sections, 5 sections, that kind of thing at the middle school. So we're looking at how to best do that. Any questions for me?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chady.
Good evening. I've got a couple of items I want to share with you this evening. I actually have guests for 2 of the topics along with us. I apologize for that. But before I get into those items, the year-end just occurred, and thus it's time in the business office to get really busy with year-end duties, i.e. W-2s and 1099s and quarterly tax returns and all of that jazz. So in the process of working on those, and we'll have W-2s out to staff here hopefully within the next week, week and a half or so. First up this evening is More Strategy Group. As has been discussed by the board and in the Finance Committee over the past couple of months, we're looking to engage the services of More Strategy Group to assist the district in making some strategic changes to our employee benefits packages over the long term. There were some conversations last month at the board about some deliverables, and this evening I've asked Anthony Fioretti to join us, and Anthony is the Senior Healthcare Advisor with More Strategy Group. He and I met earlier this evening to kind of lay out a calendar and our approach leading through the renewal process this year. But I did ask Anthony to come along, and I'll ask him to step up to the mic and to speak a little bit about the deliverables or the process that we'll be undertaking, and then if the board has any questions to ask of Mr. Fioretti, they can do so at that point in time.
Thank you, Bob. Good evening, everyone. I'm Anthony Fioretti, as Bob said, with More Strategy Group. I met with Donna as part of the Finance Committee last month, and I guess just for a little background, the healthcare and benefits marketplace is changing radically over the last couple of years, not only in Wisconsin because of some of the legislative things here, but of course nationally the Affordable Care Act has changed the way that insurance companies work, the way that health care providers work, and all sorts of things throughout the system. What I believe to be true, and in your case, is there are many opportunities to modernize your programs and still provide high-value benefits for your people and ideally reduce costs so that you can put more money to things that that the district values. Our proposal works with your current insurance plans and insurance brokers without adding cost to the process. So we're really bringing the strategic viewpoint to you and whoever's going to represent the district in terms of helping shape where you want to go on the long term. And so in terms of kind of the process, it starts with engaging staff and board members alike in terms of what healthcare or benefits should be, how they should be represented here for the long term, not just an incremental change on an insurance renewal date, but our process looks 3 to 5 years out and tries to shape the direction of all of those programs with your belief systems in mind. So the beginning is a discovery phase. The second part of it, of course, is documenting and having a vision and actual game plan to work from over the long term that we all can agree on, not with the nuances of we're going to change this and that deductible or benefit percentage, but the concepts of engaging people as consumers or providing choice. Those sorts of things are part of, the deliverable. And then we work in the third part of the process in conjunction with your broker and carriers, whoever they may be, to actually build the tactical steps over the next couple of years. So the insurance broker that you currently have engaged may execute on those things that we define. And Bob and I have talked about kind of the bridge to that resource to where, they'll take clear orders from us in terms of where we want to go based on really what staff and board suggest is meaningful to them. So it's really about having a long-term plan in a changing environment and bringing our expertise. Mine is 30 years in healthcare and benefits, leading consulting operations at a number of organizations here in Wisconsin.
That long-term vision, I think, was perhaps a deficiency of our current broker. So this brings that strength to that table. And working with our current broker, Hausman Johnson, they're very willing to enter into this partnership with more strategy along with us. Along those lines, the district intends to utilize the employee benefits, an employee benefits advisory committee, very similar to the insurance committee that the district has utilized in the past. In my email to the board over the weekend, I did put out there if there was any interest of a board member to serve on that committee to let me know, and I'll just, not to let the cat out of the bag, but Ms. Delaney did respond back with an interest in doing so if there was no other board members that had expressed interest there, so.
Good.
Any questions for Mr. Fioretti? If not, we'll move on to my next item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda for my report is the scholarship memorandum with the Lake Mills Area Community Foundation. The district and the Community Foundation have been meeting for the past number of months to talk about the transition and duties of moving some scholarships from the district as assets to the Community Foundation. We have a memorandum of understanding which has been crafted and has gone through legal counsel of both the Community Foundation and the school districts as well. With us tonight is Don Baker. Don is the current president of the Community Foundation. Jay Smith, legal counsel for the Community Foundation, and Ann Herdendorf, the investment advisor from the foundation, is here with us this evening as well. I think we have all of the roles and responsibilities appropriately defined. The district does have a number of CDs that have scholarship assets held in those that mature beginning later here in January, continuing through mid-March. And then we have a few CDs that won't renew or mature until 2015 or even 2016. Those CDs were in longer terms, and quite honestly, it's probably for the benefit of those scholarships because those yields are much stronger. But our desire is to request the approval of that MOU later this evening, and thus we can begin transitioning those scholarship assets to the Community Foundation as they become available. Yeah, I'm sorry. Also, as part of that process is an online application process that we are going to be implementing with with this year's senior class for the high school. In the past, there was a application that they would fill out by hand and turn in, and there's a product available through a local source that'll provide us the ability to do that on an online and thus reduce a lot of the copying. The individuals that are involved in the actual selection of the scholarships will be granted access to that online portal so that they can too review that information electronically, and it'll cut down on a lot of copying when it comes to the scholarship committee time here late this spring. So the agreement with that will be that the school district will make the initial purchase of that product with a $2,400 expense. There is a benefactor or a donor that has agreed to allow us to use a remaining balance in their scholarship fund to cover the vast majority of that. We'll have a minor out-of-pocket expense, probably in the $350 range, to balance that out. And then the Community Foundation is being asked to pick up the $750 annual fee going forward. The Community Foundation is due to meet tomorrow morning. So if we approve the MOU, they will act on it tomorrow as well. And then we should be able to proceed forward with transitioning those scholarships again as those items mature. Any questions of myself for any of the foundation reps?
But I have a question about the Moore report. When will we, in order to work with these folks, we need to have a contract with these people, and when will they present a report to our board about what they would do and what it costs? And I think that was asked for at the last meeting.
Well, there is no new cost to the district.
So, in other words, the cost that we're currently paying, that was the other question. You were going to find out how much we were paying to our current broker?
Correct.
What was that amount?
The commissions that our current broker are receiving for our health and dental insurance are approximately $27,000.
Okay, so that $27,000 now would go to the Moore, would be used to pay for the Moore strategy report?
Our broker and Moore Strategy will work out an agreement as to the compensation, and they have both been directed to inform the district as to what that agreement is.
Okay.
That our expense will be no new cost.
Okay, good.
They did ask if I'd like to be a part of that negotiating strategy, and I told them no. I'd much rather receive what the outcome is, but I don't believe it's necessary for me to be part of that negotiations.
So we don't need a contract with these folks?
I think we will have an engagement agreement that we will reach with them, but I don't think that we need a contract or, again, there's no money on the table no new money on the table for us.
There's $27,000 of old money, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, getting back to the Community Foundation.
Yes. The online application, would that be applicable to only those scholarships administered by the Community Foundation, or would that be applicable to all scholarships that are administered through the district?
Great question. The online application would be utilized for two parallel scholarship tracks, those that are housed under the umbrella of the Community Foundation and those that are housed under the umbrella of the Lake Mills Area School District. I would say that our guidance department offers a number of other scholarship opportunities that don't use our online application process, so those would not be part of that. Those would be scholarships. I saw one for like the Zonta Club today. They have their own application process. It goes off to some other non-local address. So those would not be part of this, but those that are really housed or located here in the community of Lake Mills that desire to use our online process most certainly would be.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so do we want our Community Foundation to make any comments?
Would you guys like to offer any comments? Johnny on the spot?
Nothing further to add?
We should just move to this.
Okay. So do we want to approve this now, that we move this?
No, you still have an action item.
Yeah,
Okay, we still have an action item.
You'd be your first action item.
First action item, all right. So, anything else, Mr. Shady?
No, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders?
I want to skip to Mr. Dayton since he's here, and then he can take off. An idea that had come through the Recreation Department a while back was the teaching of an archery program. There is a coach's training for this at a cost. The program could be run through the Rec Department and through the Physical Education Department. In both cases, all of the people would need to be trained, and I know Ben will talk about that. The training costs have been covered through some grants from local businesses, but I told him that before we moved forward with anything like archery, that he better do a report here and see if there are any concerns. I have been in school districts where we've done skeet shooting and clay pigeon shooting, and if we didn't run that through the board, we might have been the ones getting shot. But I thought it was important that he ran it here before we even thought about starting it. So I give it to you, Mr. Dayton.
All right. I'm actually very excited about this program. It's pretty cool. Part of the idea came from several conferences that I had been to, and it's through the National Archery in Schools program. They're the ones who develop the curriculum, have all the research behind it, come up with different ways to save the community's costs. So with that, Jane Riedel actually took a course to become an instructor, and that's how we started thinking, all right, this would be something cool that we could do and great for the community. Currently, what we would be able to do is offer the program through us, like Mr. Sanders said, and then also serve a certain population of the schools through the Phi-Ed department, around 190 kids in archery. Several other schools in our area are currently doing this right now. Fort Atkinson, Columbus, Wisconsin Dells, Kaukauna, La Follette, to name a few, many others. The safety aspect, I think, is one thing that comes up, rightfully so. But this curriculum it's very regimented. You have to do step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and there's lots of commands involved with it. So it's very well developed, very strict, and these are the steps that you take. There was a interesting stat that they had put out. According to the National Safety Council, archery is safer than every other ball sport offered in schools except for table tennis. So it's very safe for all students. It's easy for kids with disabilities, wheelchair, etc. Pretty much everybody can participate in it. And I think that's all I have for you.
Questions?
Yes, Mr. Dayton, what age group would be targeted for this program?
I like the pun. Sorry. We would have ages 5th grade through 8th grade. And the curriculum, actually I have it right here. This is 6th through 8th, but they have a curriculum that goes down to 3rd grade as well. I believe it was 3rd grader.
And have you been able to assess the enthusiasm within the district?
Yeah, actually, way back when I first got here, that was a part of my initial survey that I put out to the community to see what kind of interest and what sort of activities folks would be interested in. And this popped up more than once, so there's enough interest. So we put it out there, and it's good. There's interest.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You used to have this in the city years and years ago.
Yeah.
They had archery club.
Yeah, the equipment is very nice. It's compound bows rather than the big long, I don't know what those bows are called, but.
Yeah, long bows.
Yeah, long bows. There you go.
That's what.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sanders?
In your packet, you've got a yellow sheet that talks from the Strategic Planning Committee on Phase 1. This is the group that finished up, and the Phase 2 started. We had our first meeting last week. Dr. Thomas and I were in attendance in that, along with the administrators. Looking at mission, vision, belief statements, and how the district, the second phase basically looks at how and what can we do as a district to get to some of the belief statements that are there. So what they're looking to do is the mission statement that Dr. Mason read by providing an outstanding education. Again, that's a 10-year-old thing, and what they're trying to say is let's update it. And we were looking for a smaller one, shorter one that people could know, that could be easily put out there. So you'll see that as a group, when they got all done, they came up with preparing all of today's students for tomorrow's opportunities. And then the vision was a community passionate about inspiring all learners. And then there were some belief statements. I don't need to read them. You have them in front of you. And I have this for anybody who wants it. They can email me and I'll send them a copy. The step from the strategic planning would be that you would approve these probably next month, and then they would continue to use them in Phase 2 as they come up with a plan. Now, I know you haven't had a chance to discuss them. I know that Dr. Thomas and I had a chance because we were at the meeting together to discuss a couple of them. So I guess that's what this is all about right now is, are these things we like? Are these things you want to take another, some cracks at, talk about in a month from now, you change and do? And the other thing is as a board, you have the right to say we're not doing any of them. The strategic planning was good. The community getting together and talking about it was good, but, we're happy with what we have. And, so you always have that right. You don't need to feel that you're forced into a corner by a strategic planning group.
Comments?
I have a question, I guess, and it's probably more about process than actual result. How do these belief statements relate to the mission, and how do they work? Are these the kind of things that we write down and everybody feels good about? And then 10 years later, we say, well, we don't like those anymore, and we're going to do it again. I don't quite see how that all fits in.
Yeah, and I think that's what they were trying to do with these, Bob, was to make them so they are something that are living and breathing, and not let's talk about them one time and put them on a shelf. So what the belief statements, and these came from everybody from the group, put together by them. Take number 3, we believe passion results when students are engaged in their learning. Learning is an innovative, personalized, student-centered. It kind of shoots right into the vision statement, that we're passionate. We want all learners to be inspired. There were things that, I think in the belief, it's like, as a community, this is what we believe in. And when or if you start thinking about, we have to start cutting budgets and making tough decisions, you come back to these things to say, what do we believe in? What's our bottom philosophy? And the big one on here that took a lot of time was the one that says we believe in the inclusion of all students. That was a large discussion point, but something that, if you have to start looking at programs going away, like many of the districts that we have as neighbors, do we go back to that belief statement to say, hey, we got to keep that in mind as we go? I understand what you're saying, Bob, that, there's not always a fit, but it was more of, these are the mission, the vision, but here are the things that we believe, A, the district does well, and B, we'd like the district to continue to do in the future. And by we, I mean the group, not Dean. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, as the planning goes forward, will there be ways to measure
That's what group
these?
Phase 2 is supposed to do, is to take these and then talk about how do we accomplish, measure, get to. And again, that meeting, that will come in one of the later meetings.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
I have a question about tomorrow's opportunities. What did you kind of have in mind? So the
Well, you know, in our,
mission statement.
yeah, in the one we have now, it says 21st century learners type thing. Well, we're into the 21st century. And the learners we have now will never, you know, they're not going to be learners in the 22nd century. So we were thinking whatever comes up as the world changes, that was why it was brought out as tomorrow's opportunities.
I think the other thing behind that too was every student's tomorrow was different. You know, so it was trying to be inclusive of all of those, but yet broad enough to provide for that flexibility.
Anything else? Okay.
Coaches education, as you, a while back, you knew that we were talking about, Mr. Strike, Mr. Murphy, and I have been talking about putting together a mandatory coaches education program. I sent in your packet some requirements, years 1 and 2 for people who are here. These are requirements that we as a district would pay for, but put together a program that we can then ask all of our coaches, 6th grade through 12th grade, volunteer, non-volunteer, to go through to make sure, A, they are covered, and B, our students are covered. The first year in the mandatory one talks about CPR, first aid, and AED training. I'll be very honest with you, that one's coming through the legislature. We were hit with the concussion one a couple of years back, and in Wisconsin, to be honest, we were ahead of that. These 3 are up in a legislative bill already, and I think it's being introduced in like 18 states. So I just think it's time we get ahead of that. We can do refresher courses every other year, but that all of our coaches are required to have that training. And then what we would ask is that they have the National Federation of High Schools have some courses on their website. There's a course that's specific to every sport that the National Federation offers. So if you're coaching that sport, you would take that test or that class. When you're done, you're printed out a certificate. And so our hope is that when all the certificates are done, it's like a portfolio. And these people could then, if they move from here or go to coach someplace else, they can take that with them to say, you know, I've got all these backgrounds. Now, there was an article in today's high school athletics program that said they're going to have to update these because right now they're not stringent enough. And so our hope is to do that. We also were sent an article today from the Illinois Association where they're being sued for football and they're being sued for concussions. And the bottom line is the same person who's suing the NCAA is suing Illinois. And what they're saying is that we need to have better education in concussions. You need to have a trainer on board in every sport all the time with a physician on call all the time. There are going to be schools that can't afford that. If that lawsuit goes through, the sport of football will change, especially soccer will be next, because the second leader of concussions in the nation is soccer. Third is lacrosse and rugby. But there are some changes that need to come. We see these as being some good areas: fundamentals, concussion, heat illness, teaching, modeling behavior, sportsmanship, sports nutrition, engaging with parents, creating a safe and respectable environment. So we'll continue to work on these, but this is what we're looking at right now. We'd like to have these back to you probably by February and have them ready to say that if you're coaching next year, this is what you'll need to do. Now, if I take all these coaches and all these classes and I coach football, and then I also coach track, I don't have to retake all of the other ones in track, I just have to take the sport-specific one. But again, with this, the cost of these would be something that the district would reimburse them for. So I know that we had talked about this a while back. We have been moving forward on it. If you've got questions, go to the National Federation site. You can take the course on any one of these. You know, if it doesn't say $1 behind them, they're free. Fundamentals of coaching, there have been a lot of our volunteer coaches who have, through the years, taken that course and have felt that it helped. So that's where we've been working. I know, Dawn, you were interested in that as we've went, so
So they're online?
they're online. They're all online courses, everyone, except the CPR, the AED, the first
Yeah,
aid, that
right.
has to be done
Right.
hands-on. Last month, oops, I'm sorry, please.
Quick question. Is there going to be a requirement that any new coach or existing coach has to complete these within a certain time period?
Well, that's why we said first and second year,
So it
is
has
that
to be completed?
within the second year, it has to be. That's kind of a federation, right now, under the state law, if you have a coach who's a volunteer and doesn't have a degree, they can take a course, they have 2 years to take it, and then if they don't finish it by the second year, they can no longer coach for you. So that was kind of what we used as a guideline when we looked at a first and second year.
And so the athletic director would keep track of this?
Yeah,
and-
he would keep a file with all their certificates.
So head coaches?
I
assistant,
think every
everybody,
coach, volunteer,
volunteers,
they're all there.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay.
Last month, as we were, again, questioned on exit interviews, we discussed the exit interviews in closed session. And so there were a few things that I kind of wanted to talk about tonight. I may not answer all the questions that people want answered, but a few facts about exit interviews, and excuse me for reading these, but I got to make sure I have everything right. Our exit interview policy went into effect on June 9th, 2019. Or 2014. That policy was to be in effect for people who left in the 2013-14 school year. When it began, we were doing it just for professional staff, and then we expanded it to any staff member who left. Retirement, termination, left on their own, however it worked. When the service that we had hired did that, they sent out 19 letters, and he got 7 responses, which again, if you know your statistics, means the validity is not as high as you would want it to be. People were told that their responses would be kept confidential, as all matters of personnel in this district are confidential. All matters of personnel are done in closed session. We don't sit out here and talk about people because we'll get sued quicker than we think we will. That's why this topic's been talked about in closed session. These interviews were intended to be used to help the staff remaining to do a better job and learn from the people who were leaving. That staff might be me, that might be the administrators, it might be whoever. All concerns in the document have been shared with the appropriate personnel. And what I mean by that is this. If there's anything in that document that talks about one of our administrators, I've had a meeting with him. If there was anything in that document that had anything to do with me, Dr. Mason has had a meeting with me. So what was in there, if it's good, bad, or indifferent, because there were both, that has been shared with the people that were in there. So lastly, or not lastly, but under the new effective educator for principals evaluation, they have to go through a staff survey every year now. So March, all of the administrators have to give a survey to all of their staff. That survey is anonymous. They then get the findings from that. That is then shared with me. So if there were issues, and there are still issues, we will address them further. I would hope that if there were issues in the exit interviews, that those would change because we have discussed them. I think it's time that we move on a little bit with this. Many of our young people have asked me, is this something that we need to be afraid of? Is this something where we've got a vigilante group that we need to be afraid of? And that's using someone else's terminology, not mine. I guess it's easy to say, let's look at these things and we have to have one person to blame and then keep continuing to look backwards. Or do we review these things, change what we need to change, and move forward? But again, as someone who's now is named in that document, good, bad, and whatever, I don't think that that's something we're supposed to sit here and talk about. So that's my response to the exit interviews. Now, if somebody wants topics, I'll gladly do that in a meeting with them. But I'm not going to do that on air. I don't think that that's what it's supposed to be meant for. It was meant to have people give us suggestions on how to get better in a confidential way.
Questions?
Will we have any, I guess, outcome data from the staff surveys?
You
said you would
won't
get it?
see it. I will see it to start with.
Will
Now,
there be
if
a
there's
summary or something that can
There
be
is,
provided?
yes. But if you were to see it, it would be next fall, by the time it all gets put together.
gonna be-
Technically, it's set up in their evaluation for their use only.
Okay.
Just like the teachers are supposed to do parents, and the teachers are supposed to do their students, which I know they have. It's for their use.
Okay.
If you, though, if I believe that there's somebody who is not doing the job, let's just put it that way, I can ask, and under the evaluation system, get all of the surveys so that I can read them, and I can make sure that they're right. Same thing when you do one on me, when this changes over to mine, I will have to do community members. You will see them. Community members could ask for that. But right now, it is intended for the teacher's use to get better. It's intended for the administrator to get better. But if there are some, we as administrators can ask for the staff members' results. I, as the administrator, can ask for the principals. Right now, it is only principals because they don't have one for a business manager or pupil services / curriculum person. So it would be the 3 administrators.
Oh,
4,
that's good.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
say it
no,
that way.
that's fine, good. Thank
But
you.
that's kind of how that would work. And I think in most cases, the administrators and I probably will go through them.
What's the role of the board in this process? Is this an administrative function, or does the board not have a role, or have a role?
In what function? If
On these exit interviews, is there any role that the board plays in any of this, or is this sort of an administrative function?
Well, I believe you were the one that got the report, so the final report came to you. If you
Okay.
believe that there's something in there that we need further on, you would be the one that would direct me to do that.
Okay, no, I
Or if
just.
it's me, you'll direct me to.
Yeah, I only asked this because when we met after the last board meeting on this, we got these at the meeting. It was pretty hard to read them at that time and discuss them at all. And then a few days later, you sent an email to all of us asking if you thought we needed to talk about this more. And I sent you an email back saying I thought we did. And pretty soon, another email came from Mr. D'Imperio, and he said, I would like to talk about this more. And following up came an email from Dr. Delaney, and she said, I too would like to talk. And then I never heard another word, so I don't kind of know where we
My email
are.
said, do you want us, because one of the conversation pieces was, do we need to move to a climate survey and have people surveyed? And so what I asked was, is that what you wanted to do? And you said you wanted to talk more about it. And I'm
It
happy
was
with
about
that.
the report. I
Well,
didn't know.
It's your time. It's your time to talk about it. If there's things that I said you don't agree with, or there's things that you want to add to it, feel free to do so.
Add to what? I don't even know kind of
Add
what
to
you're
the
talking.
report that I just gave.
Okay, so now we'll never talk about this again. This is undergone, this report is done, right? We won't talk about this anymore.
Well, I'd rather not, but we will if you tell me to, because you're still running the show.
Well, that's why I'm wondering, kind of where we are. I don't care if we do or we don't, but it just seems that I'm unclear whether what our role is and what your role is and what the staff role is and whatever and anything. Because I was under the impression from those emails that went around, and there were 3 people that wanted to talk about it more, that we were going to talk about it more, but then I never heard anymore, so I'm assuming it's over.
Well, I wouldn't talk about it more in an email,
Okay.
right? I mean, you're going to talk
No.
about it more, here's your opportunity.
I wasn't sure if we were going to pursue the climate surveys or if this administrative survey, I guess I was wondering if that might have taken the place of it, but then we wouldn't get the results of that one, it sounds like.
No, not
So-
unless, if the results would come to me more than anything.
So I guess the question is if we need to continue to look at this and talk.
We have a policy. Are we going to continue this process, or is that over too?
The only one that could end that would be you.
Okay, so so the policy's okay, and we're going to keep doing exit
Right,
interviews.
and if you remember, the policy said there's a follow-up at 6 months. Right?
Yeah.
Get more?
I mean, I'm just still don't know what our role is, but that's okay. It'll clear up as time goes on, I'm sure.
Well, I think it's pretty clear.
Okay, it's over.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to continue
Okay.
to do the exit interviews, is that correct? Yeah.
Because we passed that policy.
Okay.
You know, now it might be a different person that does it. but
And the
it'll
exit
be a third-
interview,
It'll be a third party.
and the exit interview report, that great big thick thing we got, has all been addressed, and that's done.
Well,
We don't need to think about that anymore.
no.
Okay,
What
okay,
was addressed was addressed. What needed to be addressed was addressed.
okay. By our administrative team. That's good. Takes us out of the picture.
Okay. Anything else? Mr.
I have a
Primer.
couple more, but I
Oh, do
wasn't
you have
even
more
sure
stuff?
we were done with that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I thought we were ready to go with Mr. Primer here.
I'd
You
like
haven't
to go
even
to
touched
Mr.
the
Primer.
calendar.
Okay.
Two things, also, you'll see that you have policies in the board policy thing on open enrollment and on the new scholarship that's being given. Under open enrollment, as you remember in the past, you've had to have numbers of how many seats are open per grade level, special education area. I think that was in your packet. It was a colored sheet that looked like this. If you don't have it, I can send another copy around. This one just needs to go in the minutes tonight. You can approve it next month. But in the fine print of all the new laws, and to be honest, these have been the open enrollment ones have changed 3 times in the last 2 months with all the things. It says that if it's not on the books today, you cannot deny any student open enrollment for next year. Now, you can still approve it next month and say, hey, we don't get this, but if you don't have something on the books in the minutes, didn't you have these? All right.
No.
I know I sent them online, so,
Email, weren't they?
yeah, I'm sorry that you didn't, I was gonna
We're in
put
the
them,
packet that you gave us tonight.
were they in the packet
Got it
too?
on an email, so
You-
You can send one to Eli if you want to.
You want a colored one?
I'll send it to him.
One more if you need it. So what it's looking at is that you have to say, how many new spaces do we have open with the pupils that we have, with the CA, which means children attending already under open enrollment. So what your projected enrollment is, and then how many spaces do you have available? So let's take first grade. First grade, we say we have a capacity of 110 students, 5 classrooms, 22 apiece. We have 110 students. We presently have 108, or that's projected. 4 of them are counted in there, but are students from other districts. So there are 2 openings for new students. Second grade, 22, 5 sections, again 110. We have 113 now. Second grade is closed. And then it reads down that way. So what the middle one says is pupils in the seats count students who are CA, meaning counting attendance. Those are open enrollment students who are already here. And you have to include those. You also have to understand that in this thing, you have to, if you have a sibling who's already here, you must accept the sibling. It used to be you could, now it is you must. So this one needs to just go in the minutes, so people can see it. We need to put it on the website. You can approve it next month, as I talked to Mr. Butler about that today. But he said as long as you get it in the minutes tonight, it's in there.
What about special ed? You know, you got a speech, OT, PT.
As you can see in the bottom, as we went through it, and all of those have changed, the new spaces would be 0. Now,
And that
if our
includes
own
PT
student,
or,
if our own
and
kids.
all the rest?
Right, if our own kids need it, we have to offer it. But what we're saying is
Yeah, right.
we're not taking an open enrollment student with those
Right.
IEPs.
Right.
Does that make sense? Last one in the news this weekend, you saw in
You
the
have a
paper.
question?
Oops, I'm
No,
sorry.
it doesn't make sense, but none of this makes sense to any of us. This is just new state rules that are coming.
And
And
by,
it's-
by June, it'll change again, from what I
That's right.
understand.
I agree with you. Maybe tomorrow.
I hope not tomorrow,
But possibly.
Okay,
possibly.
Put it in the minutes.
so, anything else?
Lastly, you read in the paper this weekend, and you see in some of the local papers, they're talking about conference realignment in our area. We are not making any comments about it, because as of right now, it's still a talk. So if you get asked by anybody in the community, it's still a discussion point between administrators, meaning athletic directors and principals of the conference and some neighboring schools, and there has nothing been finalized, because conference realignment has to be brought right here before it's finalized. But just thought you should know it. It's become a hot topic. It was an article in the Madison paper, and so some of the local papers have picked up on it.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Primer, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Senior exhibitions went well with all the student council food drive kind of stuff going on right before break. The new student Rotarians for the month of January are Maddie Luthinen and Megan Tickner. The boys basketball team was ranked in the state rankings until they lost to Baraboo. The girls basketball team, they had some injuries, but they're still doing well. The wrestling team, we're going to host the LCAT duels next Saturday, and last Thursday we beat Palmyra in Palmyra. Finals are coming up, so Link Crew is, they're hosting an event in the library here where the underclassmen can come and get tutoring for the finals. And also, before the break, there was the band and orchestra concert, and also the choir concert, which I might add, I've been involved with a lot of concerts throughout my high school career, and I thought the choir concert was especially good. One of the best, if not the best, I've been involved with, so.
You're not prejudiced on that, are you, Eli?
Yeah, if you guys don't have any questions or comments, that's all I have.
Eli, I would tell you that I had some visitors here from out of town who have had grandchildren in choirs and in colleges, and she said it was the best concert she's ever been to.
Good to hear.
All right, thank you. With Mr. Topol not being here, I'm going to, we have two,
Show that you have them both, was that?
we have two of them, see? And we have Dr. Thomas is running again, and Ms. Davies is running, and for 2 open slots. So now we're going to choose which order the ballot goes. Okay? So, Dr. Delaney, you're going to decide which, my right
Pick
or
a
left
hand.
hand.
Left,
Okay.
Donna Thomas.
Okay, Dr. Thomas is number 1. Ms. Davies is number 2.
Pass those back to Patty. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
2? All right. Thank you.
I think both of you did an excellent
Oh,
job.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you've had a lot of practice doing this, haven't you, before?
Yeah. All right, the WASP resolutions. Dr. Thomas, do you have anything?
Yeah, well, I'm almost hesitant to say anything, but I feel I have to say something because this is coming up next week, and
Yeah.
you need to know. Actually, I'll just say that there are Probably about 10, 12, 13 resolutions, and many of them apply to voucher schools and some of the hot topics that there are. First of all, though, there is the co-curricular one. This is where the School Boards Association says that we should not allow non-public school students, like homeschool students, to be able to come and just participate in co-curricular activities if they don't go to school here or take courses here.
To allow it or not to allow it?
Not to allow it.
Not to allow it.
Not to allow it. And the second one is a voucher accountability, which probably most everybody sitting here can agree with, and that is if we're going to have standards for public schools, they should also be for any private schools or people that are in the voucher program. The same way, going along with this, on this same topic, is that teachers in voucher schools and administrators in voucher schools and private schools should be required to have the same certifications as public school teachers have and meet the same standards. And that these voucher schools and these private schools should follow the open meeting law, just as public schools are required to comply with. And that they talk about the administration of certain standardized tests as being one, and that public schools, our schools, should be able to give the Explorer test at a time when it's best for us. And they talk about something else that was kind of not touched upon here yet, but will be, and that's the days of instruction and the flexible length of the school year. And the WSB supports the repeal of the 180 days of instruction and wants to have just minutes. That's what they're proposing, that the legislature do. Everything in these things applies almost to the legislature, because right now the legislature is so involved in schools that that's just what they have. Educator effectiveness. The WSB believes that the school board should have access to any data that is created from teacher effectiveness. The teacher
Who has
effectiveness.
access to it?
That any school board should have access to this data that's generated from the teacher effectiveness program. Okay, that's what they support. The WSB supports as the Common Core standards as they are right now, and that they are should be used in all schools. Here's something a little bit different, but again, it involves the legislature, that school boards should still have the power to decide on the sale of school district buildings and grounds. Right now, the legislature is trying to force the Milwaukee Public Schools to sell some of their old buildings to voucher schools, or people that want to start voucher schools privately. And then the next thing, which will be dear to the heart of some of you, is the legislature is trying to talk about fund balances and have control of fund balances. And the WSB is saying they don't want any legislative interference in fund balances, that it should be up to the local boards. And then the next thing is the Recovery School District. WSB opposes the creation in Wisconsin of a recovery school district. This is a new concept, or this would be where the state would take over or attempt to take over low-performing school districts, and that they should stay out of it. School start date. The WSB supports the idea that it should be repealed, that school has to start by a certain day, like after September 1, that should be gone. Sharing of students by districts. This is kind of a new concept, and it's especially a new concept in northern Wisconsin, or somewhat around here, where there are these real small school districts, where they should be allowed to share students without it interfering with state aids, and as a way for school districts to save costs. So they are encouraging the legislature to support the idea of sharing of students among districts. And this is part of this rural school initiative that maybe some of you have been hearing about. And last but not least, we've talked about this before, these are, well, there's one more too, is again there's a whole controversy about these weapon possessions in school zones, and you've probably been reading about it, where law enforcement officers now, whether they're on duty or not, could have guns, be guns at school. Assembly Bill 9 would also allow any person with a concealed to go armed on school grounds. There's a bill in the legislature right now that if you had a carry conceal, you could come on the school grounds with your gun. And then the very last one is this whole concept of physical education. It's kind of reared its ugly head a little bit ago, but it's back up again, where the legislature, there is a Assembly Bill 609. All of these have Assembly bills attached to them, but 609 would require that every school district require physical education for at least 30 minutes every day at every grade level. And the WSB is opposed to that. So you can see it's just kind of things that you all know about, but kind of a condensing of them and a support. Now, whether they'll all happen, it's hard to say.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any that you would like me to vote against, not vote the party line with the WSB, you let me know. But I think we're probably in agreement with most all of them.
Okay. Policies. We're going to table number E, and the rest of them are pretty much time sensitive, and we need to get the first reading in tonight. And you had those, they were online, and you received a copy of them tonight. They deal with open enrollment, the first two, and then student awards and scholarships, and a new one, correct, Mr. Sanders, is the procedures for awarding the Wisconsin Technical Excellence Scholarship. There's even procedures in there in case of a tie, how to break it. That's new. Most of these are required by law. All of them are required by law, right?
The open enrollment one, if you remember, you have 3 policies now. You have 423, a rule and an exhibit. These 2 replace the 3. That's what is the way it's being written. For us to have 462 rule, we have to have 462, so most of what you see is coming from WASB. And the technical scholarship, you remember years back, they awarded a scholarship to the top student in your class for colleges. You were given the amount of money for the tuition. And then it changed a little bit. It used to be you could, if your top student went out of state, your second student could get it. And then they changed that to say if your top student went out of state, you lost it. Well, now they're back to if your top student doesn't take it, your second student gets it. So last year, if you remember, Mr. Hunt, who was our student board member, went to Indianapolis. The student who was second in that class is able to take advantage of that scholarship. This is one that's someone who's going to a technical college. And I cannot understand why it didn't happen 20 years ago when the other one happened. But the time sensitivity of this is that you have to have this on the books in January and then approved in February. The first awarding of this will be in March this year. And after this, I don't know if Mrs. Sweeney is still here. If I say this wrong, wave at me. But after this, it's after the first semester, just like the other scholarship is. But because it's so new, they've pushed the timeline back a little bit this year.
So this is considered first reading.
First reading. So if there are changes, things you don't like, get them to me, get them to Dr. Delaney or Dr. Mason, and we'll change them for the final reading next month. But we needed to get them on a first reading.
Okay, any questions on that? All right, let's go on to the action items. Approval.
No, you have facilities.
Facilities.
Oh, we got facilities.
Don't miss that.
That's about the only thing we can do without the legislature
All right,
right now.
facilities.
Okay, very, very briefly. As an offshoot of discussions that the Facilities Committee had prior to bringing forward some of the improvement projects for this building, we had talked about, and the long-range facility plan identifies the need for an upgraded survey and review of this building in total. And as we're noting capacity changes in the lower grades, we thought this would be a good time to initiate a study which would look both at the programmatic side to see how much space we had, how were we utilizing the space, as well as touching on some of the physical elements of this building as well, although we feel pretty comfortable that we've done quite a bit over the last few years in upgrading this building. The long and the short of that is that we have got into discussions with the architectural firm of EUA, who did the work on the elementary school, as well as in concert with Myron Construction, as far as their interest and willingness to move forward with a survey of this building. And so before we went much further with that, we thought we wanted to have a discussion here this evening to make sure that everyone was on board conceptually with doing that, and then we would come back at the February meeting with a specific proposal from these firms for doing the work. But we thought that this might be a good way to get ahead of the curve a little bit. If we have some issues that are going to be coming into this building in terms of numbers of students over, the next 4 to 5 years, this would be a good time to try to figure out how we're gonna deal with that. So, just looking for consensus or oh my gosh, that's a terrible idea kind of a thing.
I think, too, Mr. Imperial, if you remember, when we did the one at the elementary school, it was the spur that sent us towards referendum, was that there was way too many dollars to be spent to upgrade it versus building new. So, we could get some surprises from that that says, here's all your needs. So if you all remember, and Dawn, I don't think you were on the board at that time, if you remember, you got a hard copy at a meeting that was about that thick with every system at the Prospect Elementary. That's kind of what we're asking them to do here.
Questions? All right, now on to action items, and we moved action item R to the top, which is approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Lake Mills Community Foundation.
Well, I'll move approval of the memorandum of understanding with the Lake Mills Area Community Foundation, and that pending subsequent agreement by the foundation, that the entities work to transition scholarships to the foundation accordingly.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Community Foundation. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye, and that passes unanimously. Approval of WASP resolutions.
I think every year we always then, after Dr. Thomas gives us an overview, we give them her the latitude to vote. I think the resolutions portion of the convention, Donna, is next Wednesday?
Wednesday at 1:30.
All right, so that you know.
Motion, please.
I move the board give Dr. Thomas the latitude to vote on the WASP resolutions at the upcoming WASP convention in the best interest of the Lake Mills Area School District.
Second.
Any comments? Questions? Look them over. If there are any concerns or anything, or you want something changed, or how to vote, or suggest to vote, see Dr. Thomas. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye, and that's passes unanimously. Approval of the 15-16 school calendar.
No, high school course handbook.
Oh, high school. Gee.
It's all right.
High school course handbook.
I know that Mrs. Strike
wanna
gave
get
that to you
moving.
last month and asked if you had any questions to get a hold of her. Are there any further questions before we move forward with that?
I move the board approve the Lake Mills High School Course Handbook for the 2015-16 school year.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the high school course handbook. Questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
Bob D'Imperio.
Aye.
Jenna Thomas. Richard Mason.
Aye, that passed unanimously. Now, approval of the
You want to do the calendar now?
15-16 school calendar.
And I'm sorry that the question that was asked, the people are not here, but when I brought this last month, I was going by, as Donna made the comment of the 180 days being gone. That this calendar we're under this year, we had done under the old auspice of the 180 and all of those type of things. The new one that I had brought you last month went under minutes. I kind of got the feeling that the minutes wasn't enough, to be honest. So I went back to the handbook. The handbook says the contract with the professional staff is 192 days. So in doing so, I set it up with 176 days contact, which is over the amount of minutes, 2 parent-teachers conferences. Now, the interesting thing today is you heard that you wanted those only at night. I've been told by people who work second shift that the way we do it now is very accommodating for them, but that when we did them both at night, they had to take off work to get to parent-teachers conferences. So I've heard both sides, and I understand both sides of the comment, but we do see that the parents who have to work second or third shift are also able to get to parent-teacher conferences. We have 4 holidays, and then the rest of the 192 is 10 in-service days. I would like to propose 4 in-service days at the beginning of the year, and then throughout, with the last day of school being June 10th. The question of who gets out at what time of the year does really become a local decision. It does depend upon how much break you take at the holiday break. If or not you take a spring break. Many of the districts around us do not take a spring break. They take a Friday and Monday around the holiday, and they make up 4 days in there, which would put us right back on top of where we're at. The calendars of the year we're in and this one have been discussed with the teachers, with my leadership group. We will discuss it again tomorrow and some other things. But the biggest question with this is, if you're willing to look to go, and again, it pretty much mirrors what we have now, except the in-services are a little different. In the old contract with the LMEA, there was a provision that says the first 3 days of inclement weather are not made up. In the handbook, it does not specify a day. It doesn't say 3 days. It just says the board will decide, if and when or how much is made up. Now, last year and this year under that, I've always went under the auspice of we're still under the 3 days. You'll see that in this calendar, Patty and I still have it on there as 3 days. But you probably need to tell us in your motion if you want that changed. So, accept the calendar as it's written, or if you want us to change the inclement weather, at 176 days, right now we have 178, we've already missed 2. I can live with it because at 173 days, you still have enough minutes. But you need to make that decision because it's your handbook. And then the other thing I'd still like to continue to talk about, and I know we do a handbook update in April, is the idea of professional hours. That doesn't have to be decided today. So I know I wrote that in my write-up to you about inclement weather days. I think I call them snow days. We can go as we have. It's a precedent that's been set forever. But you can change it because your handbook has no specific days to it. And I guess it would be nice to know for the guy who's calling off school to know that ahead of time. even though you're really never right one way or the other on that decision.
All right, let's get that on the table, and then we'll talk about it. So motion to approve the calendar.
I move the board approve the 2015-16 school calendar.
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded now. Discussion. Yes.
I am extremely concerned about cutting 2 days of student instruction time. Going from 178 days of student instruction time to 176. 2 years ago, you came in the fall, and we were going to cut some of the time of the fine arts at the middle school because there wasn't enough time for reading and math. That was the same year that at the elementary school, we increased the length of the day a little because they didn't have enough time to do everything. And now, all of a sudden, you say we can cut 2 days of instruction time. It doesn't make any difference.
I don't think I ever said it didn't make a difference.
Okay, well.
You said that. I didn't say
said
it.
that. I'm saying that, okay. But I'm assuming you think that, or you wouldn't have proposed to
No,
cut it.
I guess why I'm doing it the way we did it was with the in-service days as they fell.
No.
The last day is a Friday.
I'm
I mean, we
talking
can add
about-
another week.
I'm talking about student interaction days. I'm not talking about in-service.
No, I think we're talking about something
Have you talked to the
different. though.
parents at all about this? Or PTOs or whatever?
I've talked with the teaching staff and I've
No,
talked with.
I asked about the parents. This is
I
2
have
days,
not.
too, of their children are going to lose instruction time.
And again, this is a suggestion that I'm putting out there. And the 176 ended only with the understanding that it ended on June 10th without coming back another week.
Yeah,
That's the bottom line.
I'm talking about instruction time. That's,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, and that's too with the early release days. That's why I'd like
Yeah.
to get rid of them and pick up
I
some
don't
time
doubt
there.
in-service is good. Teachers need in-service, but students need face-to-face instruction.
How would I disagree with that? I mean,
I know.
I mean, we're also looking at, they tell us here's the minimum in hours, and we're over that by 60 some hours. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
we could easily move in-service days to after the school year is done and continue to have school, but you and I both know what does an in-service day do for me at the end of June?
Yeah, I'm not talking about I'm talking about these 2 instruction days.
No, but how do you
face-to-face
pick those
instruction.
up if you don't move those someplace else?
Yeah, you have to take them from in-service.
Right.
Any
That's all
other
I have.
questions?
Now, we do, if we end a week later than many of the other surrounding districts, where are we, what's different with our schedule, our calendar from these other schools? that
Again,
can-
most of them do not have a spring break of a week.
So our spring break is,
The end of March, always the last week of March. Or it could be last week of March, first week of April.
so they just don't do that at all?
Right.
We also have that long one in October,
Well, we have 2 days in October.
days in October.
Most of the ones who are around us do the same thing because we're all at the same in-service. That's the one we run here for all the 5 schools. It used to be I don't know what it was called in Madison, it was a convention there. Oswego was in February at that time.
Do I understand that we are limited to 192 total days with our staff?
In your handbook, that's what you have.
Okay.
And that's why I built it the way I built it.
And the day before Thanksgiving, has that always been a traditional, not always, that's a bad word.
That's been,
Is that a pretty common thing to give off that Wednesday?
It's been different a couple of times when I was here. When I came, that we used to have that whole week off, and then it was parent-teacher conferences on Monday and Tuesday, or Monday night, Tuesday morning, and in services, and Wednesday was off. There've been a couple of years where we've went just Monday, Tuesday. I don't remember any time where it's all 3. The only feedback that I've ever gotten on that Wednesday is people like to have that so that they can travel. without traveling in the crowds after work on Wednesday. And I've gotten that from feedback from parents and teachers, through the years. It's the only reason it's the way it is. It's the same thing with the 23rd of December. You could go 3 days that week, but people really like to use that one to travel with the family.
And this, in 2015, Christmas is a Friday, correct?
I think you're right. Yes.
Yeah, well, see, I'm also concerned about cutting the contact days. That just seems to run counter to common sense. I know we, looking at the 192-day, the difference is made up. We've increased in-service days by 2 over last year, over this current year. And I know that in your write-up, you talked about entertaining the possibility of doing some in-service outside of the school year. And I don't know how that, during the summer. And then that's got some compensation issues that go along with it. But there may be some value to pursuing that as well, and reducing the number of in-service days that we have here.
Okay.
And as I look at, and of course, everything that I'm going to say here is arbitrary, but there's an in-service day in May, and how does that, at the end of the year, is that an essential thing? Is that important? If it's important professionally, then I'll shut up. But
I think why it's been there is that in the research it states that every 6 weeks you should give a break between students and teachers. That just for good teaching. And so it falls in there not only as that, but also for how do we get everything ready for the end of the year? And that had always been an early release date. But again, picking up those hours, we went to a full day. I mean, that one could be very easily go away, but it kind of goes with the 6-week idea of giving breaks to students at that point in time.
Well, it seems that we should find out from the teachers kind of, if this schedule works for them. But it seems like we also need to balance that against the parents and find out from the parents' standpoint if they would rather see fewer in-service days or whatever during the school year so they could so the children could get out of school earlier in the summer. I don't know what the parents' preferences might be if maybe they want to do away with spring break so they could take those days at the end of the school year instead. But the only way to find out would be to actually ask them.
Okay.
The other intrusion into the thing that also concerns me about taking away these instruction days is we've already, even within this built-in calendar, have taken away days for instruction due to testing. And that's increased every year. So that means even kind of less instructional days for teachers and students to interact. So I just am concerned about those 2 days.
Okay.
But I also think that we've got, and they're kind of competing interests that we have. We have people who want to get an early break on traveling, and it's maybe some of those same people are concerned about their children not having enough instruction days, and that's really those interests. And as we heard this evening, it's too late in June, or it's too early in the fall. I mean, there are a lot of competing interests here.
There's no perfect calendar.
I think, Bob, one of your points very well taken is, I've had parents say to me, I need to know now because I have to schedule my vacation days a year ahead of time at work. So getting it out is, to me, always been important so they can do that too. But I mean, if it's not exactly where you want it, if you want us to survey the parents, we can gladly do that, but then you'll have to table your motion for tonight till it comes back.
When do you think we'll find out too about this September 1 start date?
September?
Because eventually we could go back to starting in August.
But you still ain't gonna do, are you still gonna do 170 days, or you're gonna do 200 at that time? Because when we started in August, we were done at Memorial Day. In my day.
That's not going to change. You know how big that lobby is?
What, September 1?
travel?
Yeah. I agree with you,
won't
Rick.
That one,
At the Dells, you mean?
well, Minocqua's got more money into that than the Dells does.
Well, just the 2 days, that's what I said.
Well, you know, you have to decide, I guess, whether, you know, you're making a calendar for the students,
Yeah.
the teachers, or the parents.
That's right.
And that's what you have to decide. And
I
if
would
it's for the
agree.
students, you know, a lot of these little things you would eliminate, probably.
Mhm. Have instruction time.
So, what do you want to do?
Could testing be done on in-service days?
No.
Oh,
'cause you
no.
gotta have your teachers there.
Every single one has to be.
Yeah.
But you couldn't have somebody else come in and proctor these tests?
No. You cannot.
Yeah, at least a week,
No, that wouldn't.
Your certified staff.
at least. Well then, do you want me to make a motion to table it? Is that what that is?
I don't know. Do you want to table it
Well, he
and
can't
survey
change it
parents? I mean,
tonight.
that's going to take another,
Well, let him think about it.
Yeah, I guess I would prefer not to
I
table
need
it.
yeah?
Not
I mean,
prefer
I've-
not- Okay.
I'm pretty sure there's a couple people out there I haven't irritated yet, so I think I can move forward with something.
Go ahead. There is a motion on the floor.
The motion's on the floor.
A motion to
Can we,
table it.
can we trade one day of instruction for an in-service day? I mean, you know, from the compromising kind of a deal?
Point?
I don't think that that's a problem. We just figure out which one it is. You know, the October dates, as you can see them, in the past, we always had the multi-district on Thursday, and we had in-service on Thursday, but none of the other schools do. So that's why the in-service is on Thursday and not Friday. I have always pushed for it to be on Friday, but everybody else's contract, they're off. So there's always a day in there that's, and I do know this year, when we got to that day, I heard a lot of, and again, staff, because they're who talked to me, about, you know, having Friday off sure would be nice, coming back on Monday for parent-teacher conferences, because we're tired.
Remember what Rick just said? We gotta decide who's we're trying to please, the kids, the parents, teachers.
Well, then I would ask,
As for the kids, what is our mission state?
The new one or the old one?
Well, I'll
So-
call for the question. 'Cause
Okay.
there's a motion on the floor.
So the motion on the floor is to approve this calendar. Let's do roll call.
Bob D'Imperio.
Aye.
Donna Thomas.
No.
Don Delaney.
No.
Richard Mason.
Aye. And that fails for a tie. So,
A tie fails.
another motion. Possibly your compromise?
Well, I would move to approve the school calendar substituting one additional contact day for an in-service day.
Do you have a second on that? I'll second it. To move it along. All right, discussion on that.
For me, this is pretty abstract. I mean, I've just circled all the in-service days and everything, but the thing is, I don't have a context to know, kind of in the school world, what's actually happening before and after some of these days, why these dates were selected. So it's hard for me to arbitrarily say, well, let's get rid of this one, and this one. I just don't feel like I have enough understanding of the calendar to do that.
Well, I would direct the administration to eliminate one in-service day.
That's why I didn't specify,
Which
because
one?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't know which one is
Is one
best.
enough, or could there be two of them taken off? I
See,
don't
I'm
know.
pushing for the 2 instruction days with students. I feel that we're cutting 2 days of teacher time with students when we already have other things encroaching into their instruction day, like a week of testing or more. So I think those 2 days, anytime you can have instruction, face-to-face instruction with students, it's a benefit to the students.
Okay, the motion is to add one more instruction day.
Or two.
One, right now, the motion's on the table.
Oh, it's only one? Okay.
And there's no second to it yet, so, yeah, there was, Okay.
Mhm. Okay, let's take a roll call on that.
Donna Thomas.
No.
Don Delaney.
No.
Bob D'Imperio.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, and it dies again, so another,
I make a motion. I make a motion to table the 2014-15 calendar till next month and have the administration further study it after the discussion.
is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any,
I don't think you can discuss a tabling motion, can you?
No,
table it. Oh, we're tabling it, aren't we?
there's no discussion to a table.
So, a roll call on that.
The
Don
table?
Delaney.
Aye.
No.
Donna Thomas.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
And that dies too, again.
Well, then, it sits here.
Getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Can't do anything.
Okay, so you don't want an extra day. You don't want 2 days. You don't want the administration to do it. What else do you want?
No, I didn't say do it, I want them to study it.
Study it.
And
Well,
talk
I don't know what
maybe
that's
with
gonna-
other people. Well, no parents, I don't think, know about this, that you're cutting 2 days. You think there's going to be any kickback from parents when
I
they
don't
hear
know.
their kids are going to have 2
But
less days of instruction?
But I'd be careful about surveying parents
Oh,
and
I didn't-
everybody every time we make a decision.
Yeah, I didn't say that. We have parent groups to run things by.
That's
All right, what do you want to do? We need a motion.
One thing I think, and it was just reminding me here, remember that by getting rid of the early release, you did pick up a day and a half of instruction through this new calendar. So it may only say 176, but in your 178, 3 of those days were part-time.
So those are all off here now, aren't they?
Yeah, now they're all full days.
Full days off.
And if you remember last month, Mr. Primer even spoke to that fact.
Yeah.
Well, we have some days when students don't even come to school, like high school students. For 2 or 3 days in the beginning of the year, everybody doesn't
Somebody
come,
else is
just the
testing.
freshmen come. And is that
First
counted
day.
in that? Is
One
it
day in the
one day?
beginning of the
Okay,
year.
is that counted in that 170?
Yes.
So already they're down, already those students are down a day. And then when you have testing, do all the students come or just the students being tested at
In
the
the
high school?
mornings, just the students who are tested. The
So
afternoon,
we're
all the
already
students
losing
come.
some instruction days out of those
Same
178.
thing happens during finals.
Yeah, so we're already losing face-to-face in those 178. So we're going to lose even more.
But let's remember, you picked up time on one side that you're not counting because it doesn't say 176, 178. You're now going to have 176 full days. You had 178 with 3 partial days in your calendar.
Okay, you're going to have that K through 8, not high school though, because you didn't subtract out that you didn't say this is K8 and this is high school.
For which one?
Well, not everybody comes on the first day at the high school.
We have kindergarten that comes, 4K only comes every other day for a week to get orientated.
Okay, so there's really,
So, and other grades take different field trips, they all have different ones.
I'm not-
What I'm saying is, the number is not just 176 versus 178. You did pick up some time in the 176 by eliminating the early release. Good, bad, or indifferent, you picked up some time.
So the 176 total reflected several half-days?
178 that we have
That's what
this
I
year.
meant, 178?
Inflected, it's three of them.
But in the summary, they were counted as full days then?
Oh, yes, because it's a face-to-face. But when you count the minutes, you only counted the minutes face-to-face. You count it as a day in the old schedule. Now it's just the minutes teacher to student.
So the difference between this current year and the proposed year is a half a day?
3 half-days. That, we picked up 3 half-days off this schedule for
That's
next
right.
year.
A half day.
Half day.
So the net is a half-day differential?
Yes, yeah, half-day loss.
Those half-days were probably not that productive
So if we can
anyway.
pick up
I
one
think
day.
that's what Eli told you last month.
Half a head, if we can pick up one.
We have other days in that, counted in that 176 that aren't full days for all students.
Which you've had forever, so.
They
I mean,
weren't
that
last
can-
time
no-
either, right? Yeah.
No change than what we've done in the past. We've always had testing.
No, that's what I'm saying. We've already done enough in the past. That's why I say those 2 days are important. That's exactly right.
Well, we
So
picked
be-
up a day and a half.
So because I voted no on the initial motion, which was to approve this, does that allow me to make that motion over?
Yes.
Yeah,
Because we have new information.
You mean motion
to
to
make as
table?
many motions
Yes.
as you want, yeah.
No, it
No,
wasn't
nothing's
tabled.
been tabled.
He voted no on the first,
Voted no on the
Make one
proposal
day.
to approve this as
You voted
written.
yes.
so the no vote has to change.
You voted in
So,
favor.
because I voted no, I can bring that motion back.
Voted in favor of the initial motion.
Bob, you voted
No, I-
yes, she said.
Yeah, you
Did I
did.
really? What a dumbhead.
The only one that could bring it back were the people that voted no. In a dead motion.
So Donna or Dawn?
I would go for the, well, I would bring it back as finding one more day. I guess eliminating one of
You
these.
bring it back
in-service.
as what?
Finding an additional day.
Finding one additional day.
Okay.
And we already
To
did
put
that.
us ahead, I know. But I didn't understand that we had 3 half-days eliminated, which were, which now are full days on this calendar, right?
Right.
That was your original motion, Bob, to bring back, you could to bring that motion back, because you said to
No,
find
because I
one day.
voted in the affirmative.
Right.
It has to be somebody negative.
Oh. They
And,
voted for 1 day?
Yeah, it was the same people voting on it, each one.
So you would, if by
Dawn could
adding
bring
another
it
day, you would add 2.5 days?
Dawn could bring it back,
Dawn could bring it back. but-
for add 1 day.
The same motion?
Yeah, she could bring it back, and her motion would be to change one in-service day to a face-to-face day.
Okay.
Want to do that?
Yeah, if I can find the words to, I guess I move to approve the calendar with the amendment that we replace one in-service day with a full face-to-face teaching day.
Replace it with a full, what was lay under that?
A full teaching day.
Replace
full
the
day.
in-service with
An
a,
in-service and
with
then-
a
okay.
face-to-face.
Face-to-face day.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
Can I second it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. Moved and seconded. All right, to replace it with one additional day. Take away one in-service and replace it with a face-to-face. All right, roll call.
Bob D'Imperio.
Aye.
Donna Thomas.
No.
Don Delaney.
I,
Richard Meese.
Aye, that passes with one no vote. Okay. Approval of substitute paraeducator pay increase.
This was talked about a couple months ago, and I know that the Finance Committee looked at it and asked for that to move forward, the increase. And you saw that where we stood in the area with that, where we were. I think the increase of $2 does not put us to the top, and it's not, I mean, it's less than $5,000 over the year. But I wouldn't start that until February, so that there's no back pay and no trying to figure any of that out. That's why I put February 1.
Okay, motion.
I move the board approve an increase of $2 per hour for substitute paraeducator pay to begin on February 1, 2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded to increase paraeducator pay by $2 per hour, beginning February 1st. Questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Aye.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
Bob Imperio.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, that passed unanimously. Approval of middle school secretary.
You have a write-up in your packet from Ms. Nicholson. We're recommending Megan Larrabee. I had the opportunity to meet her. I think she'll do a real nice job.
I move the board approve Ms. Megan Larrabee for Secretary 2 position at the middle school office.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the middle school secretary position.
Just remember, a Secretary 2 is a 10-month position.
Questions on that? Comments? We discussed this before. Roll call, please.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
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 Aye, that passes unanimously. And approval of summer school dates.
I think I have an email in your, copy of an email that I got from Melissa Brown, who's in charge of the summer school. The dates will be June 22nd through July 24th. That's 5 weeks. There would be no class on July 3rd. And then the swim sessions, the first one would be June 29 through July 10, and the second session, July 13 through July 24. So this year, both sessions would end on July 24th.
Motion?
I move the board approve the following dates for the summer school program. June 22nd through July 24th, 2015 for classroom sessions. June 29th through July 24th, 2015 for swim lessons.
Second?
Moved and seconded to approve the summer school dates. Questions? Roll call, please.
Bob Imperio.
Aye.
Donna Thomas.
Aye.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, that passed unanimously. Approval of the policies, let's take those all together.
Are these the first reading? No, these are the seconds?
You read them as a first reading last month.
Yes?
Yeah, okay.
I move the board approve the following policies. Number 354.4, promotion and intervention and retention of students through 8th grade. Policy 345.4, the rule, procedures for promotion with intervention and retention of students through the 8th grade. Policy 345.51, honor roll. Policy 345.6, high school graduation requirements. Policy 345.6, the rule for additional parameters for high school graduation requirements and procedures. Policy 345.62, high school graduation exercises. Policy 346, student assessment. Policy 351, summer school. Policy 353.1, school district volunteers.
Second.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on those? Questions? Roll call, please.
Donna Thomas.
Aye.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
Bob Imperio.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, that's unanimous approval. Approval of accounting field trip.
I have in your packet a letter from Jennifer Iverson, the Business and Information Technology teacher. Last year, we went on a field trip. It's to Kohler, Wisconsin. It's called the High School Forensic Accounting Competition. It's run like a forensics competition, but it deals with only accounting. It starts at 8 o'clock in Kohler, so they were looking to, I know last year they went up on Sunday night, stayed over, and then came back Monday night. In our procedures, we have always then, if it's an overnight trip, it must be approved here.
Move the board approve the accounting field trip for March 8th and 9th, 2015.
And
Second?
do we need to add?
No, because it's a field trip.
Okay, okay.
There's no dollars
Involved
in it.
Moved and seconded to approve the field trip for accounting group. Any questions? Roll call, please.
Don Delaney.
Aye.
Bob Imperio.
Aye.
Donna Thomas.
Aye.
Richard Mason.
Aye, that is approved unanimously. Approval of energy tax deduction.
You know, if you remember in the past, and I don't know, Dawn, maybe you were here when we did this last time, we've always been able to work with Sustainable Engineering Group, who's the group that does all the work in both our last two buildings on the energy savings, setting it up, looking at how much are we saving, if we have concerns. In the past, what we've been able to do is if you had a new building, you got a tax credit, but because we are a public entity, we did not get a tax credit. We could switch that tax credit to them, and then they could use that amount of money to work for us for, in all essence, free. That tax credit was supposed to end on December 31st, 2014. Over the holiday break, President Obama signed back into law that any building built in 2014 would again get that tax break. So they're asking us, do we want to do it again? We give them the tax break, they give us $12,000 worth of services. A lot of those services could be used in this building to when we're reviewing and updating and looking at that. So they're asking us if we want to do the same thing again.
I'll move the board approve an agreement with Sustainable Engineering Group LLC of Middleton in which they will receive tax credit for the new elementary school, and the district will receive $12,000 of services from their company.
Second.
Second, Don. Dr. Delaney. Questions? Comments? Good opportunity.
It is, and we took advantage of this on the credits from the middle school building, which we were able to utilize in other district facilities, so.
Yeah, we were able to use that as we were building the middle school, or elementary, and not pay a fee to them for doing that, so.
Roll call, please.
Bob D'Imperio.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, that passed unanimously. And approval of gifts.
You have three, I believe. First gift is from $150 from CAPE, Citizen Advocates for Public Education for the White Fund at the elementary. Second gift from the Don Primer family of $150 towards the upgrade of the sound system at the press box out behind the school. And thirdly, Morris Whitliff for a digital pH meter that he donated to the Building and Grounds Department, valued at a price of $383.
Motion.
I move the board approve the following gifts of $250 from the Citizen Advocates for Public Education of Lake Mills to the Elementary School White Fund, to the Don Primer family for their gift of $150 toward an upgrade of the high school press box sound system, and to Ms. Morris Wycliffe for a digital pH meter for the Buildings and Grounds Department, which is valued at a price of $383, and thank them for their generous donations.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the gifts. Can you remind me what the White Fund,
White Fund it was set up a long time ago, I believe, in honor of someone. The money is used for kids who cannot afford to go on field trips to help pay for their way to do that, or bring in speakers that we couldn't afford, or, you know, I know that they've brought in readers, literary people that we wouldn't be able to afford.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Thank them all. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. February board items.
We have the Presence Learning, the speech contract, policies, facilities, strategic plan, phase one, the mission, vision, and things. I'd like to move forward, Donna, with that Moore group, that maybe they do want something in writing.
Okay. I don't know, you know, that's the way we left it, but new things have happened
Right.
since we met.
The calendar, and then, as you remember in the past, February was always contract dates for staff, and that's not there anymore. That's been backed up. So anything else anybody else can think of?
Good.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn in executive session.
I move we adjourn to executive session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.82, Pren 1, Pren C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically administrative contracts and district administrator evaluation.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye, that is approved unanimously. We're now